Ladies and gentlemen, stop what you're doing because what just dropped out of the White House is nothing short of a political nuclear bomb, and it's got Beijing scrambling like we've never seen before. Now, I'm talking about President Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump, and Vice President JD Vance pulling off a move that was so explosive, so devastating to China's global stronghold that even America's allies are stunned, and the globalists, they're terrified. Now, for years, we were told that China couldn't be touched, that they owned the world supply chains, that America had to bow, that we just had to take their manipulation of our jobs, of our markets, our tech, and even our national security. But today, Trump and JD Vance just flipped the chessboard. A trade nuke has been unleashed, a massive, unprecedented strike that puts China in full-blown panic mode. And I got the inside details on exactly what happened, like why it's shaking the global markets tonight and what's about to happen next that Beijing absolutely does not want you to hear. Because here's the kicker. This is not just about the tariffs. This is about 20 years of U.S. weakness being ripped off by the roots. Guys, it's about elite cover-ups that ultimately protected China's rise while burying the truth about Epstein, the deep state, and globalist power brokers who sold out America behind closed doors. So folks, today you're going to see why President Trump's nuclear strike on China is the first real attempt to take our country back in decades, and why every globalist and every corrupt player is terrified about what will come next. Because in just a second, I'm going to break down the secret back channel panic calls, the calls that are coming out of Beijing, the tech war explosion about to rock TikTok worldwide, and of course, the jaw-dropping connection of JD Vance and what he just made between this trade war and one of the biggest cover-ups in U.S. history. What President Trump and JD Vance did today, this will either be remembered as the moment that America finally stood up or as the spark that set off the next global firestorm. So you're going to want every detail here, guys. If you appreciate the news updates, hit the like button and subscribe. Now, folks, what happened in Washington today, this is going to go down as one of the most explosive moments in modern economic history. President Donald J. Trump and Vice President JD Vance, they didn't just talk on China. They pulled the pin on an economic nuclear bomb. And now Beijing's entire trade empire is shaking. Reports are flying out of Asian markets tonight, panic calls, emergency meetings, entire supply chains are frozen in fear because they've never seen an American president hit this hard, this fast, with this much leverage. And it's not just China that's rattled. European leaders, they're scrambling. South Korea is sending envoys overnight, and financial analysts, they're saying that this is the biggest single shock of global trade in 30 years. And so here's the thing that should pretty much grab every single American watching the show tonight. This bomb wasn't built overnight. This is the result of a plan that President Trump's been putting together since day one of his return to the White House in 2025. This is a plan designed to rip apart decades of bad deals, drain the swamp of globalist corruption, and put America first, no matter who it upsets. But what does this nuclear trade strike actually mean for your family, for your paycheck, and your cost of living? Well, this is where the tension really starts. Now, one of my subscribers, Thomas, he was ready to give up. He was drowning in copays, denied medications. He couldn't even get a straight answer from anybody. Then he called Chapter. The agent explained everything like it was family. And he said, I finally feel in control again. That came from Thomas. I got another comment from Michelle. She said, no spam, no sales pitch, just real help. Thank you, Ron. Hey, Michelle, I'm glad I could help you out in some way. So guys, their agents are not paid commissions to push certain plans. This is why I trust them. This is why I partnered with Chapter. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, there's a reason that you need to hear this. Give our friends a call over at Chapter. See how much money they can save you on your Medicare. Phone number is listed down below. Should see it on your screen. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or hit them up on the web at askchapter.org/Ron. This one call could change your entire life, just like it did for Thomas. Now, for decades, politicians in Washington, they told you China was untouchable. They told you America had to play nice, take the hits, watch our factories close, watch our jobs go overseas, and just go ahead and let Beijing cheat the system year after year. Today, that changed. Trump just rewrote the rules of global trade, And this time, it's America holding the cards. Massive new deals already signed with the EU, UK, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia. They're already shifting billions of dollars of manufacturing back home. Tariffs of up to 50% are now on the table for any country, including China, that refuses to play fair. Now, for the first time in decades, China is on its heels. They're staring down a United States that's saying, look, no more stealing, no more fake deals, no more robbing American workers. But here's a twist that has the entire world just biting their nails. Will this genius America First strategy save U.S. jobs and crush decades of globalist manipulation? Or will Beijing strike back, sending costs through the roof and sparking a worldwide economic war? Well, this is not just numbers on a screen, folks. This is about your paycheck. It's about your savings account, your future. And right now, Trump and JD Vance have just put the entire world on notice. America is done getting played. And so I'm only just now getting started with you guys because I want to really tell you about what JD Vance's explosive statement that really calls out 20 years of weak leadership and how it all connects to this shocking cover-up that ties the same globalist elites protecting China to one of the darkest scandals of U.S. history. Now, trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. So, folks, I don't want to sugarcoat this. JD Vance, he just threw a live grenade into Washington's swamp, and the shockwaves are still rumbling tonight. So the vice president didn't just defend Trump's decision to drop this trade nuke on China. He called out 2 decades of betrayal by past presidents and their so-called trade experts. Bush, Obama, Biden, all according to Vance, all three sat on their hands while China walked all over America, stealing intellectual property, undercutting U.S. jobs, and flooding our markets with cheap goods, all while politicians smiled for the cameras. JD Vance made it clear. For 20 long years, American leaders refused to enforce fair trade, refused to stand up to Beijing, and even covered for them behind closed doors. And now, in 2025, it's Donald J. Trump who's saying, look, enough. America's never going to be your punching bag again. Period, point blank. Here's what JD Vance hinted that the mainstream media doesn't want you thinking about. Was this weakness, or was it really incompetence, or was it corruption? Were these deals lopsided by accident, or was the establishment pocketing their payouts while your jobs disappeared overseas? I'm going to leave that for you guys. I don't want to try to pressure you to think one thing or the other. You decide, folks, because what JD Vance said next ties this entire global mess to a scandal that's going to completely blow your mind. JD Vance didn't stop at calling out trade treason. He went for the jugular, connecting the dots between decades of corrupt leadership, global elites, and a cover-up that's so dark it just makes your skin crawl. He reminded Americans that the same people who went easy on Jeffrey Epstein for 20 years, from the DOJ under Bush, Obama, and Biden to the legacy media that buried the truth, they're the same globalist power brokers that let China rig the trade game unchecked. Think about that for a second. 2 decades of silence on Epstein's client list, 2 decades of silence while China pillaged our economy. Who benefited? The same elite class that's now panicking because Trump and JD Vance are ripping the lid off of every last cover-up. And it gets worse. Evidence has now suggested that Trump himself blew the whistle on Epstein in 2004, banned him from Mar-a-Lago, and then later helped victims seek justice in 2009, while every other politician stayed quiet. So ask yourself this. If they were willing to hide Epstein's crimes to protect the powerful, what makes you think that they wouldn't sell out America's trade future to line their own pockets, right? This is what's at stake. Trump and JD Vance, they're not fighting China. They're fighting an entire corrupt global network that's been feeding off American workers for decades. And yet, it gets even more intense because behind the scenes, while the trade war is heating up, China's leadership is running scared. They're making desperate midnight phone calls, scrambling to stop what's coming next. So, ladies and gentlemen, while the media is busy spinning their usual narratives, something big is happening behind closed doors in Beijing tonight that they don't want you to see. Sources very close to these negotiations say Chinese officials are in absolute panic mode. They're calling emergency strategy sessions, burning the midnight oil, desperately searching for a way to stop Trump's tariff strike from hitting them like a freight train. Here's the truth, though. It's not just about the tariffs anymore, guys. Trump and JD Vance have turned this into a full spectrum economic war. AI warfare, Beijing fears losing their grip on cutting edge tech exports, IP theft, decades of stealing US inventions. This could now trigger $1 billion penalty or greater. TikTok is under fire. A looming September 17th shutdown in the United States could be the final straw, sparking this massive domino effect where basically Canada and Europe would have to follow suit, crippling China's grip on Western social media. Now, for years, Chinese officials, they thought that they could pretty much game the system. They could break every rule, they could walk away clean. But today, Trump and Vance pulled the trigger on decades of pent-up American power, and Beijing knows that their time is up. But here's a question only you can answer. Is this the long overdue stand that America needed, or is this the opening shot in a digital and economic Cold War that could change everything about the modern world? Because while China scrambles to stop the bleeding, other nations are watching every move and deciding which side they're on. Now, right now, it's not just China that's on the hot seat. Every nation that's been living off of America's back for decades is lining up at Trump's door, begging to make a deal before the tariffs hit them too. Now, in the last few weeks alone, Europe, the UK, Japan, Vietnam, and Indonesia, they've all signed historic agreements that are bringing jobs and production back to the United States. And what's the market reaction? Chaos. Some analysts are calling it the second great trade shock. Others are just saying it's the smartest geopolitical play in 50 years. Stock markets are whipsawing. Investors are panicking. One moment they're panicking and then celebrating the next. It's crazy. And like every headline screams a different prediction. But here's the reality that nobody on Wall Street wants to admit. This is what it looks like when you dismantle the globalist machine. It's not smooth. It's not easy. And it rattles the cages of every elite that got rich selling you out. And so this is exactly why the world is watching. Will America's allies step up, join Trump's vision, and finally put their people first? Or are they going to cave to the same global order that ultimately let China rise unchecked while your cost of living soared? Because make no mistake, this isn't just about trade policy. This is about what kind of world we're going to live in 5 years from now. And folks, we're about to really just kind of wrap this thing up here because there's a choice that nobody can avoid, a choice that really kind of defines whether Trump and JD Vance's nuclear strike becomes America's greatest comeback story or just another fight lost to the same corrupt powers that sold us out before. Ladies and gentlemen, when history books look back on this moment, it's not going to just see tariffs, trade deals, and panic in Beijing. It's going to see a turning point. The moment America had a choice to choose what kind of a future it wanted. Now, for decades, the global elite, they sold you a lie. They told you outsourcing your jobs to China would make you richer. They told you weak trade deals, tech handovers, and foreign censorship were just the cost of progress. And while you worked harder for less money, while your town's factory shut down, while your children's future got shipped overseas, they lined their pockets and they called it free trade. Today, that's over, guys. Trump and JD Vance have fired the shot that establishment never wanted to hear. A nuclear strike on the entire system that made China powerful and America dependent. And so here's where you come in if you're watching the show right now. Because this fight isn't just in the Oval Office, it's everywhere. The globalists and their media puppets, they're going to scream that this is reckless, that this is dangerous, and that America's wrong for finally standing up. So ask yourself this. Do you stand with Trump and JD Vance, fighting for a future where America writes its own rules, protects its own people, and refuses to ever be sold out again? Or do you surrender back to the same politicians and power brokers who spent 20 years protecting China, hiding scandals like Epstein, and treating you like it didn't matter? There's no middle ground anymore. This is patriotism versus globalism, truth versus corruption, America first or America last. And make no mistake, folks, China knows what's coming next. The panic in Beijing tonight isn't just fear of tariffs. It's fear of a United States that they can no longer control, a president that they can no longer buy, and a people who are finally awake. This is only the beginning. The next moves from Beijing, the backlash from the globalist elites, the quiet phone calls being made right now, they're going to change everything in the weeks ahead. So here's what I need you to do. Do not stop here. YouTube thinks that you're going to love the next video that just popped up on your screen. And trust me, it digs even deeper into the corruption Trump and JD Vance are exposing right now. Click that video, watch it, share it. because it isn't just news. It's a battle for the future of our country, and every single one of us has a role to play. We'll see you on the other side.